Alright, so welcome back. So this is part 3 of the Shepsle and Bonchek lecture on rational choice. Just to sort of reiterate, and to sort of refresh you, rational choice, a rational choice approach to the analysis of social scientific phenomena is a way of analyzing political outcomes based on individual decision making. So in order to, many social scientists, many political scientists argue that we can account for sort of outcomes at the macro level by understanding and aggregating the decisions of individuals acting in what's called an instrumentally rational manner. And what does it mean to act in an instrumentally rational manner? Well, it essentially means that individuals combine preferences, those are desires, wants, etc., which are internal rather to the individual, with beliefs, which beliefs is a view about the probability of that any particular action will lead to an outcome. In order to then choose that outcome, or choose that action rather, which will lead to the outcome that is most desired by that individual, ceteris paribus, all other things being equal. So we talked about. Actually, let's do this. We talked about preferences back here. Where is it? We talked about preferences back here, if you remember. Okay. We talked about, remember, Governor Wells' preference ordering. He wanted to, his preference ordering was X. He preferred X to Y to Z. In other words, he preferred to become a senator as opposed to a second term of governor, which he and then being out of politics was his least preferred preference. And we talked about how if he could choose directly from X, Y, and Z, then it would simply be easy, but he can't, right? Because he can't choose to be senator. What he can choose to do is to either run for senator or either run for governor. Okay, so that's what we talked about. Now, so then we're here again. Where are we? Okay. Here are his beliefs, right? So his preferences, which are internal, we talked about there, X, Y, and Z. His beliefs are what he believes the potential for the outcomes will be. And remember from the reading, given polling to that date and the nature of the electorate in Massachusetts at that time, he had about a 50-50 chance of either winning winning the Senate, given that he runs for Senate. So if he wins the Senate, then that's X, and that's his most preferred choice. But if he loses the Senate, which is also 50% chance, or 0.5 probability, then he would get Z, which is being out of politics altogether. Okay, so that's essentially what that means. The probability, given action A, which is running for governor, running for Senate rather, getting into the Senate or becoming senator, the probability of that is a half. The probability of becoming the governor by running for Senate is obviously 0, right? You can't become the governor if you run for Senate. And the probability of being out of politics, which is Z, given that you're running for the Senate, is also 1/2, right? From back here. Okay, so once again, this is decision making under conditions of risk, right, means that you have to take into account not only your preferences but also your beliefs about the world. Okay, so an irrational choice means choosing the best lottery of your basic actions, and the best lottery essentially means choosing the action or the instrument that maximizes your expected utility. So really, when you think about rational, what being instrumentally rational is selecting the instrument or the action that maximizes one's expected utility. Okay. So in the Weld case, right, he has two instruments. He has two potential actions. Remember, we said he can't choose to become senator. He can only choose to run for Senate. He can't choose to become governor. He can choose to run for governor, right? So he has two instruments at his disposal: A, which is run for Senate, and B, which is run for governor. So what is the choice that maximizes his expected utility? Well, we know something about not only the potential outcomes, but also about his preference orderings, and also about the sort of the values that he places on each. So let's take a look at that quickly. So So what you do is essentially you look at, okay, what is the expected utility of choosing A in other words, running for Senate, and what is the expected utility of choosing B, and running for governor? And you just sort of match them and then compare the two and then decide. So the expected utility of action or instrument A, which is running for the Senate, is, so the expected value of A is the probability that you become the senator, given you run for Senate, times the utility to weld of actually winning the Senate seat. Plus, and then you can do that for each of the other preferences. Okay, so in this sense, it's if we just do the simple math, and we know from before that the probability of winning the Senate seat is 0.5, the value that winning the Senate gives to weld is 1. Remember, we talked about that. We just sort of created numbers that are, I mean, the 1 here is sort of it doesn't really mean anything, but it does give us sort of some sort of idea as to how much he prefers 1 over, say, for Senate over the governorship over not being in politics. Okay, so we argued that he prefers being senator about 5 times to prefers being governor. You know, that's, I mean, these are sort of they don't have to necessarily be exact, but it kind of gives you an idea of how we can go about trying to calculate, and at least roughly, what he should do, what should be his expected utility. So here, once again, so the probability of becoming the senator, given that he runs for Senate, is 0.5. The value that being the senator gives to him is 1. So that's that, plus, right, the probability of becoming the senator, given that, or rather, probability of being the governor, given that you run for Senate, which is of course 0, times 0.2, which is the value of being the governor, times a half, which is the probability of being out of office, given that you run for Senate, 0.5, times 0, which is the value that that being out of office gives to him. So if you do the math there, right, the expected value of A, in other words, the expected value of running for the Senate, is 0.5. Okay. Now so you do the same thing for the expected value of action B, which is running for governor. Okay, same thing here. Okay, and this is what you get. So you get the probability of becoming the governor, right? Rather, the probability of being the senator, winning the Senate by running for governor, is obviously 0. Okay, so that cancels to 0. Plus the probability of being the governor by running for governor is 0.95. Remember, we saw that given opinion polls, he was almost assured of winning, right? I mean, times the value of that to him, plus the value of being out of office, which is, you know, the inverse of this, because he was almost assured of winning the office, times 0, which is the value that being out of office gives to him. So here, the expected value of B is 0.19. So the instrumentally rational choice then is the one that maximizes his expected utility. So which one should it be? A, running for Senate, or B, running for the governorship? Okay, well, the answer, of course, is A, because 0.5 is better than 0.19. Now, of course, this would, you know, this would change, of course, given changes in his beliefs about running for beliefs about the outcome. So in other words, if he were to, for instance, to have information that his run for Senate would be more likely to end in victory, then that would obviously change things, or vice versa. So okay, now that's an example of politics. What about an example